And it's raining. 'Tis a rain day here on the homestead. Rain days are perfect for shop days. And shop days are perfect for oil changes and everything else that holds hands with them. Can't complain much about the temperature though. It was 67 degrees this morning when I woke up, which for West Virginia, that's amazing how I almost went down the creek and laid on the homemade beach. But enough of that. This is a Belarus 250 AS. This is a Soviet tractor that I've been seeing more of them pop up here recently. I don't know if there was shipment of them just finally made it over here. I don't know. I know they've been in the States for a long time, but I just haven't really seen many of them. This one I got a couple years back off of a buddy down the road. Had a farm sale. He was upgrading a lot of his equipment. This was one of the pieces he had. When I got it, it was dead on arrival. It wouldn't start, wouldn't run, had some fuel issues. So I worked through all that, and it's been a good little brush hog tractor, really, these 250s. It is a air-cooled 2-cylinder. Everything's there. 24 horsepower on the PTO. And 21.8 on the drawbar. So, I mean, as far as horsepower is concerned, it's actually less than the dozer I had in here yesterday. Or was it 2 days ago? I can't remember. But anyway, it's that time of year. I'm going through all my equipment. And today's an oil change for this thing. And again, this is another piece of equipment that there's not too many videos out there like how-tos. So, for starters, set your e-brake, which is that lever. It just screams 60s. It really does. Your oil plug to drop, of course, is under your oil pan, and it's been draining for. It's probably already done. There's that. There's the plug in the wash. This is a good close look at the cylinders. Like I said, this is a air-cooled diesel. It's got a blower right here. It's belt driven. You can see that. And there's a shroud, a cover right here that goes over that. I cleaned out by the way, this is not a mouse nest. This is just what made it through that screen while I was brush hogging. So if you have one of these or you have air-cooled equipment, make sure to be pretty diligent in keeping these clean. That shroud just fits right here and focuses the air right over those fins. And that's what cools the motor. But the filter, the oil filter on this thing, it's a little different. It is not a canister filter that you remove and buy a new one. It is what's called a centrifuge. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. Centrifuge filter. And if you have one of these manuals, it's really stupid simple on how to take them apart. Oh, wow, look at that. Opened right up to it, I believe. Yes, I did. Yeah, centrifugal. Centrifuge filter. So, all you're going to do is take your handy-dandy 1-wrench toolbox. And you're going to remove that nut. Now I already had this off, and cleaned it. I'm one of those guys I don't even think about making a video till I'm already about 3/4 or halfway through. Come on, there we go. Whew, look at that. Zooming in, zooming out. Alright, that's loose. And you want to watch, because there's a little brass filter on the bottom, or washer on the bottom of that. You don't want to lose. Then this just lifts right off. And that's just a cover. Really, I mean, if it's dirty, clean it. But this one was really clean. And you'll have here what's called a centrifuge filter. And it spins on bearings. It's really interesting how it works. This nut, by the way, when you put this back on, you don't want to tighten it. Just snug it. Don't torque it much. There's a dead end, a shank on this that you don't want to get torn up. Don't lose those. And that just lifts right off. Now, like I said, I already had this filter off and cleaned it. But clean all the gunk off. And then take some carb cleaner or something and clean off the outside of this. The reason why I say carb cleaner is you want to cut that oil off of there so you can make a Sharpie mark. And this is the first time I'm changing this oil. So after I made the Sharpie mark, I actually took a punch after I disassembled this and punched the two places. If you do that, make sure to do it on, make sure to have this setting on wood or even do it on the rubber tire, because this is aluminum and it will warp, break, and crack real easily. So be very, very careful if you punch these. But you see these two little brass jets. And what they do is this filter sits there and the oil pressure will actually spin that around real fast. I can't even spin as fast as it's probably spins while it's operating. And what that does is it forces all your heavy metallics and charred stuff to the outside of this canister. And so every time you change your oil, loosen that nut. This nut, by the way, is attached. There's a shoulder, a lip on the inside of this. This nut does not come off of this shroud. This comes out, this base. And the reason why you want to mark the location on that is because this is balanced. And if you throw a balance off on a centrifuge filter, it'll burn your bearing up real quick within the first operating hour. You will not have bearings in this thing. And let's see, these jets were 10 millimeter. You take this out, remove your jets, and bathe it in diesel. I mean, you see what I did here. Cut off 5-gallon bucket and a mechanic's brush. And I mean, just clean the ever living dog crap out of it and hit it with air. And that's it. You don't have to go to the store. You don't have to buy an oil filter or anything. It's a very simple thing. The more I work on this tractor, the more I appreciate the, I almost screwed up. The more I appreciate what came out of the Cold War in terms of technological advancements on both sides. This tractor was supposed to be the answer to, like I said, just snug it, don't torque it. It was supposed to be the answer to a lot of the American tractors that came out at the time, the Massey Ferguson's 165, 135s. We were in competition in everything, not just weapons manufacturing, but agriculture, and the economies and everything else. Of course, agriculture drives economy just the same as war or fuel or literally any other thing that can be bought or owned. Again, let me snug this one just a little more, but don't torque it out. I'd probably say like 35, 40 pounds. Oh, while I'm on the subject of centrifugal filters, these fuel filters here are also canister that you just take out and clean. That they're not filters that you have to go out and buy, I don't think. Luckily, I haven't had to change these. This one I believe I had to change, and that one I did have to buy. I actually haven't cracked into these yet. Luckily, the fuel issue was just it broke siphon, which is something interesting with these 250 ASs. This is your line. It drops down into the tank. So it doesn't rely on gravity. A lot of American tractors, their diesel tanks were right up here, and gravity fed it to the pump. Here it's a siphon. It'll pulls the fuel up and then goes down to your pump and the fuel line distributor. I actually forget what that part's called. I get kind of harebrained. I know the part. I know what I'm trying to think of, but I just can't think of the word. I'm 30, but I act 60. So where was I? Yeah. So clean your centrifuge filter. And then that's it. You just put oil in it. These 250 ASs, as far as like year-round running, I run 5W40 in this, which is good for most of your temperature. Temperature changes. I'll have to find that later. But yesterday, or the other day, when I was talking about the Nortrac dozer, I was saying, while you're running over your equipment, look for issues, look for problems. And you see that little shiny part there on that shaft? That means that's been working back and forth. And upon closer inspection, that shaft, I don't think is supposed to be that close to the oil pan. So I looked, and sure enough, at some point that shaft backed out of that yoke. So that means I'm gonna have to fix that. What that yoke does is it allows these front axles to manipulate back and forth and articulate back and forth. Sure, manipulate, articulate, it's all the same difference. So there's nothing in the manual that talks about how to do that, but I will tell you it's not lining up. So what I'll probably end up doing is taking these counterweights off and putting a jack on this pull point and lifting this up to try to get that lined up. Now, before you do any jacking or lifting on a piece of equipment, be sure to chalk it. I haven't done it yet. I'm going to. But chalk your piece, set your brake, and on a manual transmission, go ahead and put that thing in gear. It's the simplest thing that could save your life. I forget how much this tractor weighs, but you go jacking on that front end and this thing decides to take off one way or the other, you do not want to be under it. That's a fact. So, I'm going to work on that. I guess I can go ahead and do a review on this tractor if for any reason you're looking at purchasing one. They're a good little tractor. They're real reliable. I've been doing some brush hogging with it and everything, and I mean, it's just a little workhorse. It's a very strong uh, 21 horsepower. A lot of times you get a piece of equipment, it claims 20 or 15 horsepower, and I mean, you can tell that it's only a 20 or 15 horsepower. But these little tractors, these Belaruses, they act like they're more powerful than what they are, and and yeah, I'd rate it. I'd rate it up there. If you can pick one up in perfect condition for like 4 or 5 thousand, worth it. If you pick one up that's not in running condition, probably about 1,500 would be the max. I would go with that. Uh, the electrical system, everything on this tractor is very simple. You do not have to have a college degree to understand it. But I'm going to get to work on the other issues I found, and I'll be back with you. Talk to you later.